Listen closely, rebels, because what I'm about to say is not just another motivational soundbite you scroll past and forget 5 minutes later. This is a wake-up call. If you've been grinding charts, trying to force discipline, pushing yourself with empty promises like, I'll be stronger tomorrow, or this time I won't break my rules, and you're still stuck in the same destructive loop, then this episode is for you. But before we dive in, I want you to do one thing for me right now. Hit that subscribe button, because this channel is built for the trader who refuses to settle for mediocrity. This is Trading Rebels, where we break the myths, expose the lies you've been fed, and build the mindset and structure that actually produces consistency. Don't just watch, commit. Because this is not a channel for dabblers. It's for those who are ready to burn the old scripts and start again with intention. Now, let's get real. Everyone talks about discipline like it's this magical virtue, something you're either born with or something you fight tooth and nail for every single day. And what do they tell you? Just try harder, have more willpower, be more focused, wake up earlier, write affirmations on your mirror, as if all it takes is some internal pep talk to transform your trading. You've probably tried it. You've read the quotes. You've repeated the mantras. You've sworn that this time you won't move your stop loss, you won't revenge trade, you won't break your plan. And yet, when the chart lights up, when the candle spikes, when greed or fear floods your nervous system, what happens? You crumble. You click. You sabotage. Here's the brutal truth. Willpower is the biggest myth in trading psychology. It's fragile. It's inconsistent. It evaporates in the very moments you need it most. Why? Because trading doesn't test your discipline when you're calm, when you're rested, when the market is slow. It tests it when your nervous system is in chaos, when your heart rate doubles, when your palms sweat, when your P&L flashes red and green like a strobe light in your face. In those moments, willpower is a joke. It abandons you, and you're left exposed. So let me tell you what actually works. Not motivation, not mantras, not even sheer determination. The only discipline hack that works. Structure. Read that again. Structure. The kind of structure that doesn't ask you to be strong, but makes it impossible for you to be weak. The kind of structure that builds rails on the track, so even if your mind wobbles, you can't derail. Structure is the enemy of chaos, and in trading, chaos is the silent killer. Think about it like this. Imagine you're standing on the edge of a cliff. No guardrail, just you and gravity. You might tell yourself, I'll be disciplined. I won't step too close. But one wrong step, one slip, one moment of distraction, and you're gone. Now imagine the same cliff, but this time there's a solid steel railing bolted into the ground. Suddenly, you don't need discipline to stop yourself. The rail does it for you. That's structure. That's the only real hack. When traders hear the word discipline, they think about punishment, about forcing themselves into routines, about gritting their teeth and hoping they won't break. But that's not discipline. That's torture. True discipline is effortless when structure is present. And the reason most traders fail isn't because they're weak. It's because they've never built the rails. They keep walking cliffs without guardrails, expecting sheer will to save them. And every time gravity wins. Let's make this personal. How many times have you said, I'll stop overtrading? You make a promise, you write it down, you even feel good about it for a while. But then the market moves, and suddenly you've opened a third, fourth, fifth position, chasing, stacking, and rationalizing. And when the dust settles, you hate yourself for it. The problem wasn't your intention. The problem was your lack of structure. You left the door wide open for impulse to sneak in, and impulse always walks through open doors. Now imagine you had structure, an account setup that literally blocks you from taking more than 2 trades, or a written plan that requires you to physically check off criteria before entry, or a routine that forces you to review charts only at set times, never in random scrolling mode. Do you see what happens? Discipline is no longer a battle. It's baked into the structure. The fight disappears because the rails are already there. Here's the paradox. Traders think structure is restrictive, but in reality, it's freedom. Without structure, you're chained to impulse. Every decision is a war. With structure, the war ends before it starts. That's why some traders seem robotic. Not because they have superhuman willpower, but because they've engineered their environment so impulse has no oxygen. They aren't fighting. They've already won by design. Let me ask you, and be honest with yourself, how much of your trading inconsistency comes from actual lack of knowledge, and how much comes from breaking your own rules? You already know the setups you should take. You already know not to chase. You already know risk management. Yet you keep breaking. That's not ignorance. That's the failure of structure. You're trying to fight chaos with bare hands instead of building the cage that holds it. And I get it. You might be thinking, but if I build too much structure, won't I miss opportunities? That's the voice of fear disguised as ambition. The truth is, most of the opportunities you think you're missing are traps. Structure filters noise. It protects you from yourself. Missing one flashy candle means nothing compared to building consistency across hundreds of trades. Structure trades long-term results for short-term temptation, and that's the exact trade-off that creates survival in this game. I want you to picture this. A trader wakes up, checks their routine, reviews their preset watch list, executes only within defined sessions, stops after their daily risk cap is hit, logs the trade, and walks away. To the undisciplined trader, that looks boring. To the structured trader, that's freedom. There's no tug of war, no inner battle, no breakdown at the screen. That trader doesn't need willpower because their rails carry them. Their mind is free to think, not fight. So here's where I'm challenging you. Stop chasing discipline like it's some heroic trait you can summon on demand. Start building rails. Start designing your trading life in a way that doesn't require you to be strong in the heat of chaos. Because, let's be real, you won't be. None of us are. Chaos is stronger than your mood, but it's not stronger than structure. Think back to every failure you've had in trading. Was it truly because you didn't know better or because you didn't build better? How many of those mistakes could have been prevented if you had rails? If you had structure that enforced your rules without asking you to remember them in the heat of the moment? The market punishes memory and rewards design. That's the lesson most traders never learn, and it's why they keep repeating cycles of self-sabotage. Now let's talk about the myth of willpower one last time. You've been told it's your savior, that if you just focus hard enough, you'll finally stay consistent. But the evidence is clear. Willpower is a finite resource. It drains like a battery. The more you rely on it, the faster it dies. Structure, on the other hand, doesn't drain. It sustains. Once built, it carries you every single day without asking for energy. That's why structure beats willpower every time. And here's the kicker. You already use structure in other areas of your life without realizing it. Do you brush your teeth because of willpower? Or because the structure of your morning routine makes it automatic? Do you stop at red lights because of willpower? Or because the structure of the system enforces it? Do you go to work because of willpower? Or because the structure of expectation contracts and schedules makes it unavoidable? Exactly. Discipline without structure doesn't exist. So why would trading be any different? What I want you to understand is this. The only real hack, the only shortcut, the only method that separates the trader who survives from the trader who burns out is structure. And yet, most of you are still trying to fight markets with pep talks. That's why you fail. Not because you're lazy, not because you're weak, but because you've built nothing to hold you when chaos hits. Now, here's where I leave you hanging, rebels. Because if structure is the real hack, then the question becomes, how do you actually build it? What does it look like in practice, step by step? How do you go from chaos to rails, from impulse to immunity? That's exactly where we're headed next. And trust me, when we open that door, you'll never see trading the same way again. So rebels, we've exposed the lie. Willpower is not your savior, structure is. But now the real question is burning in your mind. How do you actually build it? How do you take this concept of rails, these guardrails I've been drilling into your head, and make them real inside your trading life? Because it's one thing to nod your head and say, yeah, I get it, structure is the way. And it's another thing entirely to build the scaffolding that transforms your day-to-day execution. The first truth you need to swallow is this. Structure is never built in the heat of battle. You can't build rails in the middle of chaos. You don't construct a guardrail while you're dangling off the edge of the cliff. Structure must be designed in calm, outside of the storm, and then installed so firmly that when the storm hits, it holds without question. That means your structure begins long before the charts light up. It begins in the quiet space where you design, prepare, and commit. Think about professional pilots. Do they rely on willpower to fly safely? No. They rely on structure, checklists, protocols, systems. They don't just jump into a cockpit and say, "I'll remember everything." They've built rails so tight that even if adrenaline spikes, even if pressure mounts, the procedure carries them. That's exactly what you need as a trader. So let's break this down into layers, because structure is multidimensional. The first layer is environment. The second layer is process. The third layer is accountability. If you miss one, the rails weaken. But when all three lock together, your trading becomes bulletproof against impulse. Let's start with environment. Your environment either fuels chaos or enforces clarity. Right now, be honest. How chaotic is your trading environment? Do you trade from your phone, lying in bed, half distracted? Do you have 20 tabs open, notifications pinging, charts flashing? Do you chase signals from random Telegram groups while Netflix plays in the background? That's not environment. That's sabotage. You cannot expect discipline in an environment engineered for distraction. The rebel move here is ruthless minimalism. Strip your environment down to the essentials. Clean charts, defined work hours, zero noise. If your environment feeds impulse, impulse wins. But if your environment is sterile, quiet, intentional, it forces your brain into structure. That's why institutional traders sit in controlled desks. That's why professionals have dedicated screens. They know environment isn't optional. It's the first line of rails. Now the second layer, process. This is where structure becomes mechanical. And rebels, let me warn you, most traders fail here because they confuse process with preference. They think, "I'll just remember to follow my plan." But memory isn't process. Process is externalized, written, systemized, forced. It's not inside your head, it's outside, holding you accountable whether you feel like it or not. Here's what I mean. A true process looks like a checklist you must physically tick before entry. It looks like a risk cap programmed into your platform that shuts down your account when the daily max is hit. It looks like set trading windows where you're either in execution mode or completely offline. That's process. It doesn't ask you what mood you're in, it dictates the terms. It kills impulse before impulse even has a chance. And then there's accountability, the third layer. Let's be brutally real. You are a master at lying to yourself. You've justified bad trades. You've rationalized rule breaks. You've said just this once, and then you've repeated it 100 times. That's why accountability is non-negotiable. You need something or someone outside yourself that reflects the truth back to you. For some, that's a trading journal reviewed weekly. For others, it's a community or mentor who calls out your patterns. For others, it's public documentation, forcing honesty. Without accountability, structure erodes because self-delusion is a trader's favorite drug. Do you see how these three layers fuse together? Environment clears the noise. Process enforces the rails. Accountability seals the cracks. That's structure in motion. And once installed, it becomes your discipline. Not your willpower, not your mood, not your affirmations, your rails. Let me give you a raw example. Picture two traders. Trader A sits in his pajamas, laptop on the couch, TV running, checking random charts throughout the day. He says he has a plan, but it's in his head. No checklist, no risk cap, no predefined hours. He takes trades when he feels it. He journals only when he remembers. Now picture Trader B. She sits at a clean desk, trades only from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., uses a written checklist before every order, has a hard daily stop loss coded into her broker, and reviews her journal every Saturday, no matter what. Which one needs more willpower? None, because Trader B doesn't rely on it at all. Her rails do the heavy lifting. Trader A, he's a prisoner of impulse. And guess who survives in this game long term? And I know what you're thinking. That sounds robotic. That sounds boring. But rebels, let me remind you, consistency is boring. Freedom is boring. Chaos is exciting, but it's also destructive. You don't trade to entertain yourself. You trade to build freedom. And freedom is born from structure. Now here's the hidden benefit no one talks about. Once structure is in place, something profound happens. your nervous system begins to trust you. Right now, your body doesn't trust you in the market. That's why you panic, why you hesitate, why you feel fear and greed so intensely. Deep down, your nervous system knows you're reckless. It knows you'll break your rules. It knows you're not safe. But when you build structure, that changes. You train your nervous system to believe in your process. Slowly, your body calms. Your breathing stabilizes. Your heart doesn't spike as much. Why? Because it finally trusts that you're not lying anymore. That's the psychology of structure. It rewires your biology. And this is where the myth of discipline completely collapses. Because once your nervous system trusts you, discipline becomes automatic. You're not forcing yourself to hold back. You're not even tempted. The temptation dies because the rails hold. That's when trading shifts from chaos to clarity. That's when you finally feel what consistency tastes like. But let me warn you, building structure is not a one-time setup. It's not as simple as writing a plan and hoping it sticks. Structure must evolve with you. It must adapt as your trading matures. If you outgrow your rails and don't replace them, you'll drift back into chaos. That's why reflection is a non-negotiable piece of structure. You must review. You must refine. You must upgrade your rails as you grow. Otherwise, your structure becomes outdated, and outdated structure is as dangerous as no structure at all. So let's make this practical. If you're serious about building structure, here's where you start. Tonight, not tomorrow. Step 1, strip your environment, kill distractions, create a dedicated space that screams clarity. Step 2, externalize your process. Write it down. Build your checklist. Hardwire your risk caps. Step 3, set accountability. Journal. Get feedback. Expose your patterns. Do these 3 steps, and you've laid the first rails. Will it feel restrictive at first? Yes. Will it feel uncomfortable? Absolutely. But rebels, discomfort is the doorway to freedom. You've been trading in chaos for too long. You've been free to sabotage yourself. That's not freedom. That's slavery. Structure feels tight in the beginning, but it's the only path to real freedom. And here's where I want to leave you, at the edge of a new reality. Because if you take this seriously, if you actually build the rails, you'll experience something you never thought possible in trading. You'll experience consistency. Not forced, not fought, but automatic. And when that happens, everything changes. Your mindset, your psychology, your results. But rebels, I'm not done with you yet. Because if structure is the foundation, then the next question is even bigger. What happens when structure meets chaos? What happens when the market throws its worst storms, and you're in the heat of it? Can structure really hold? Can rails survive the chaos of volatility, news spikes, manipulation, and raw fear? That's the battlefield we're about to step into. And when we go there, you'll see why structure is not just a hack, but the only weapon that keeps you alive when chaos comes for your throat. Rebels, we've come a long way already. You've understood that willpower is fragile, that it cannot hold you when the market is raging. You've seen that structure is the only hack that makes discipline automatic, and we've walked through how to build it through environment, process, and accountability. But now we need to go deeper, because the truth is, structure doesn't exist in a vacuum. It doesn't live in your notebook. It doesn't live in the calm moments where everything feels under control. Structure is forged, tested, and either proven or broken in one arena: chaos. And that's exactly where we're going. Because let's be real, the market is not a polite classroom. It is not a friendly training ground where things happen slowly, neatly, and with order. The market is chaos incarnate. It is volatility. It is sudden spikes. It is uncertainty piled on top of uncertainty. It is whispers of manipulation, news bombs, liquidity traps, and price patterns that make no logical sense in the moment. If you've been in the game even for a short while, you've felt it. The chart moves like it's alive, like it's taunting you, like it knows exactly what you fear and what you want. That's chaos. And chaos is where most traders collapse. Now here's where the rebels are separated from the masses. The average trader builds their structure in calm, but when chaos comes, they abandon it. They throw their rails aside, convinced that this time is different. They forget their process. They override their risk limits. They chase. They panic. They react. And every single time, chaos eats them alive. But the rebel trader, the intentional trader, understands something different. Structure is not built to avoid chaos. It is built to survive it. Structure is not a comfort blanket for easy days. It is a weapon for war days. And when chaos strikes, your rails are the only thing between survival and destruction. Let's break this down. Chaos shows up in two ways: external chaos and internal chaos. External chaos is the market itself, the sudden spike that wipes out your position, the flash crash, the liquidity sweep, the manipulation. Internal chaos is your nervous system's reaction: panic, fear, greed, hesitation, tilt. Most traders think the market's external chaos is the problem, but the truth is, it's always the internal chaos that kills them. Because no matter how wild the market moves, if your structure holds your psychology in check, you can survive. It's when your nervous system overrides your rails that you blow accounts. So the question becomes, can your structure hold against your biology? And the answer is yes, if you build it with intention. For example, think about your risk structure. Let's say you've built a daily risk cap that shuts you down after 2 losses. On a normal day, it feels annoying, maybe restrictive. But on a chaos day, when your emotions want to revenge trade, when your mind screams, "get it back," that cap is your salvation. It cuts the cord before you burn the whole account. It survives the storm for you. Or think about your process structure. If you've externalized your checklist, written, physical, non-negotiable, it forces your mind to slow down before entry. Even when chaos is screaming, "jump in now," your process interrupts the impulse. It creates just enough space for clarity to reappear. That's how rails save you, not by making chaos disappear, but by absorbing it, by withstanding it. And then there's accountability structure. On chaos days, when you want to break every rule, accountability looms in your mind. You think of your journal, you think of your mentor, your community, your future self reviewing this trade. That accountability becomes a mirror you cannot escape, and suddenly you hesitate. Not because of willpower, but because the rail of accountability holds you in check. Do you see the pattern here? Chaos is inevitable. You cannot trade it away. You cannot pray it away. You cannot willpower it away. The only way you survive chaos is by designing rails that do not bend when chaos hits. That's why structure is not optional. It is oxygen. Let me tell you a truth most won't admit. The greatest traders aren't the ones who avoid chaos. They are the ones who invite it. They step into volatility with confidence, not because they're fearless, but because they've built rails that carry them. They don't trust themselves in chaos. They trust their structure. And that's what makes them dangerous in the market. They're immune to the tricks that wipe everyone else out. Now, I want you to think back to your last chaos moment in trading. Maybe it was NFP. Maybe it was CPI. Maybe it was just a random liquidity grab that flushed you out. What happened? Did you break your rules? Did you widen your stop? Did you take one more trade after your limit? Did you panic, close at the worst possible moment? Be honest. And then ask yourself this: what rail could have stopped me? Because that's the work. The rail you failed to build is the rail that chaos exposed. This is why I keep hammering. Structure is not theoretical. It's not motivational. It's engineering. It's building a cage strong enough to hold the beast of chaos. And if you don't build it, you will keep getting eaten. But here's the twist. Chaos isn't just the enemy, it's also the teacher. Because every time chaos wrecks you, it's exposing the hole in your structure. It's showing you exactly where the rails are weak. If you pay attention, chaos is not just destruction, it's feedback. It's telling you, build here. And that's where rebels gain power. The masses curse chaos, complain about manipulation, whine about unfair moves. Rebels study it, extract the feedback, and strengthen their rails. That's why they get better every storm. And this is where the game shifts. Once you stop seeing chaos as your enemy and start seeing it as your testing ground, structure becomes not just protection, but a growth engine. Because each time you survive chaos, your trust in your rails deepens. Each time your rails hold, your nervous system relaxes more. Each time chaos exposes a weakness, you fix it, and the rails get stronger. Over time, you transform from fragile to unshakable. Not because chaos stops, but because you've built a fortress inside it. Now let me make this deeply personal, because I want you to feel this in your bones. Imagine 2 futures. In the first future, you keep trading the way you are. 1/2 rules, 1/2 impulse, structure sometimes, chaos most times. You keep blowing accounts every few months. You keep repeating the same cycles of guilt, frustration, and self-loathing. Years pass, and you're still stuck, still saying, I just need more discipline. That's one future. In the second future, you take this doctrine seriously. You stop chasing willpower and start engineering rails. You build your environment, you externalize your process, you set up accountability. And when chaos comes, you don't crumble. You adapt, you survive, you grow. Slowly, your nervous system learns to trust you. Slowly, your execution becomes automatic. Slowly, you transform into a trader who cannot be broken by chaos. That's the future rebels are building. That's the future I want for you. And that's why I'm pressing you right now. Don't just nod along. Don't just watch this like another trading video. Take action. Tonight, write down one rail you will build before your next trading session. 1. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for Monday. Build one rail, and then another, and then another. That's how transformation happens, rail by rail, until chaos has nothing left to feed on. But before we wrap this up, I need to hit you with this. Structure will save you from chaos, yes, but it will also reveal something uncomfortable. Once you're safe from chaos, once your rails hold firm, you can no longer blame the market for your results. You can no longer say, the market manipulated me. The spotlight will turn fully on you, on your design, on your system, on your choices. And that, rebels, is the moment of truth. Because when excuses die, creation begins. So if you've been nodding your head through this, if you've felt the weight of truth in these words, if you're ready to stop surviving and start building, then this is your moment. Hit that subscribe button right now. Don't wait. Smash the like button to tell the algorithm you want more of this truth, not recycled trading cliches. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next doctrine. Because trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. And share this with a trader you know is stuck in chaos. Be the one who hands them the rails that might save their career. This is Trading Rebels, where we don't bow to myths, we don't follow the herd, and we don't settle for mediocrity. We build, we design, we create. And if you're ready to join that rebellion, you know exactly what to do.